So this video crossed my feed by YouTube user Dana Ashlie. The video is called A Solution They Do Not Want You to Know. I decided to check it out for some reason. She started off talking about conspiracy. That already got my attention. She interviews this guy, YouTube user Terral BlackStar. I will leave both their links in the description, but check out this video, it's pretty interesting. They were talking about smart dust. Not to give too much of it away, I'm just going to point out the things I want to talk about. But check out that video to get the whole story. Terral said these bots are already inside us by means of this, and attaching itself to every organ in the body and can link together and possibly what's causing Magellan's disease, where these little fibers starts coming out of your skin. But for what? And what does that have to do with HAARP, which I would now call antennas in case that's a trigger word to get flagged? Get this, these bots collect data of everything that's going on in your body. What you eat, your daily routine, who makes you excited, who makes you angry. It collects all that data and transmits it through these antennas to an AI virtual reality. These bots transmit a carbon copy of you in an AI simulation that's living their own lives. A simulation in a simulation in a simulation. Stay with me, this video is going to go all over the place. He said that 70% of the population can be integrated and 30% cannot. As of yet. Who is this 30%? Is it by race? Is it by religion? Or maybe a certain percentage have a different immune systems and are the ones who notice the Mandela effects. I don't know. These are the things that pops in my mind. I mean, really, what if these things are causing a Mandela effect by changing the frequency in your brain? And we're the ones to notice. I'm just speculating. He also said that the main goal of the AI is to get ahead of us and they will reverse the signal and the bots will be controlling us. I don't know if the bots can control us, but I can see that they can speed up the simulation past our real time and create scenarios to see how our carbon copy reacts, and they will have a pretty good idea how we would react in a similar scenario. So in a way, we can be controlled, or in other words, guided. Sounds like predetermined reality, or Minority Report. He also said something else that I thought was really interesting. He said that there are hundreds of these antennas all over the world. I had to check it out for myself, and it was true. I found out some very interesting things about these antennas, which is mainly what I want to talk about. These antennas could do a lot of things. It can establish communication anywhere on Earth. It can scramble communication on large portions of Earth. It can control the weather. It can disable anything including underwater subs. It can detonate enemy nukes in flight or throw off their trajectory by scrambling its circuits. This thing can send particles through the Earth. It can make the sun shine on another part of the planet. And these are some of the things. It can do a whole lot more. It basically can destroy anything. Do you know what this thing is? For those who haven't figured it out yet, this is Nikola Tesla. He had one idea that would stop all wars, but the powers that be wasn't trying to hear it, so he wasn't able to create his idea. But scientists figured it out.
His superweapon, dubbed Teleforce, was fully operational under the Soviet Union as early as the 70s. Now called the Series-Shogin howitzer, the humongous Tesla scalar interferometer was exactly as Tesla had described it. It encompasses 4 modes of operation. The first one is the Tesla shield. It runs continuously and generates a thin, impenetrable hemispherical wall of energy over a selected area. It has defensive purposes and works as follows. By interfering 2 Fourier expansions and 3-dimensional scalar hemispherical patterns in space, they join into a dome-like shield of electromagnetic energy. Air molecules and atoms trapped inside are fully ionized, displaying an intense and vivid light. Any physical object that attempts to pass through this shield will receive a considerable discharge of electrical energy and will be vaporized in an instant. By stacking these energetic shells, they will deter any gamma radiation or EMPs coming its way. The second mode is more offensive. Utilizing 2 truncated Fourier transformers, the device shoots a 3-dimensional scalar 5-field pulse. A second pulse is then released, traveling at a faster velocity and overtaking the first one, merging into a deadly EMP of electromagnetic energy. The third mode is the same pulse variation ran continuously. Thus, 2 continuous scalar waves are sent forward, merging into vector energy at their target destination. According to some researchers, this is the exact way in which Tesla planned to transmit wireless energy, and also the weapon would annihilate hundreds of aircrafts and entire armies. The final mode, dubbed Time Squeeze, will let the user play with things like anti-gravity, dematerialization and materialization, transmutation, and it provides a great deal of medical benefits. Other effects may include subliminal and superliminal communication, seeing through Earth and the ocean, as well as reaching higher orders of reality. This is apparently possible because the human being has, between his ears, a Tesla scalar interferometer. This tiny biological device accounts for most parapsychological phenomena. It can also be triggered naturally through practice and meditation. The technology behind Tesla's weapons is nothing new to modern man. They fall in the category of directed energy weapons, or DEWs, which are long-range weapon systems that inflict damage at a selected target by emitting powerful, focused bursts of energy. These emissions are either laser, microwaves, or particle beams. With such weapons at the disposal of world powers, it's easy to understand why another world war hasn't broken out by now.
The death ray. That's what that is. It does everything the death ray is described to do. I read the patent. Tesla said it would end all wars.
It's easy to understand why another world war hasn't broken out by now. It's easy to understand why another world war hasn't broken out by now.
Many years ago, scientists theorized that there are neutral and charged particles trapped in the radiation belts. In the patent, they never called it Van Allen belts, but that's what they are. I know I said I don't believe they exist, but I admit when I'm wrong. I don't know why I never heard of it. The only reason I didn't believe they exist is because of two credible sources. I forgot their names. One wrote a book, said that the astronauts landed on the moon, and one of them said that they had some items to perform a ritual. You know how the Freemasons get down. They were approached by some beings and were told to go back to Earth and never return, which is why we never went back. They filmed everything and kept it for themselves and made the fake moon landing for us. I believe them. And the story about when they crashed the ship on the moon to see if it cracks and it rung like a bell for hours? Who'd think of something stupid like that? Why would they want to crack it? I believe that story too. So how did they get past the Van Allen belts? Well, Van Allen belts on Wikipedia explains that. Implications for space travel. The last two paragraphs. The Apollo missions marked the first event where humans traveled through the Van Allen belts, which was one of several radiation hazards known by mission planners. The astronauts had low exposure in the Van Allen belts due to the short period of time spent flying through them. Apollo flight trajectories bypassed the inner belts completely, passing through the thinner areas of the outer belts. Astronauts' overall exposure was actually dominated by solar particles once outside the Earth's magnetic field. The total radiation received by the astronauts varied from mission to mission, but was measured between 0.16 and 1.14 rads, much less than the standard 5 REMs, or REMs, per year set by the United States Atomic Energy Commission for people who work with radioactivity. Makes you wonder why astronauts won't confirm or deny landing on the moon. NASA trying to discredit themselves. They want us to believe it was faked. That way we won't believe anything they say. They will show us the truth and we won't believe it. And they can always say, we told you so. Sorry, got sidetracked. They theorize that there are trapped particles that they can make use of. To test this theory, I give you Operation Fishbowl. Uh-oh, some of you sitting up in your chairs right now. Operation Fishbowl is where they detonated a nuke in the ionosphere. Not considering that they could possibly burn up all the atmosphere, this test was not an attempt to crack the firmament, but to test the ions. If the nuke leaves a glow after detonation, it would prove their theory that there are indeed trapped particles. I never knew that's what that test was about. At the time, they still didn't know how to make a death ray, but they were getting ideas with the possibilities of this newfound information. Fast forward to 1993. Work on the HAARP facility begins. 3 years later, I don't know if this has to do with anything, but something's telling me to point it out. 3 years later, Congress passed the Telecommunications Act, and that's when they began converting everything to digital signal. Full conversion of all televisions in the US was in June 2009. 2009! This is around the time a lot of people started noticing the Mandela effect. 1 year later, a random woman coins the term. I'm starting to think those antennas are causing the Mandela effect all along. And they knew about it because I have Google's trend in an old video showing the term was looked up as early as 2004. And they sent this agent out to see if anyone's talking, and if it's too much talk, she would start the ball rolling. For two purposes: to form groups to make us look like conspiracy nuts and to keep record of who's infected in groups and study us. Okay, I exaggerated that last part, but it makes you think. But really, I'm starting to think these antennas are causing the Mandela effect. Something else I had to add here. As I completed this outline, I take a break and watch a video on TV totally unrelated, and the universe showed me a sign through that unrelated video about birds in the magnetosphere. That's strange because I'm talking about that subject. So I went back to look up birds. Recognize the signs, people. Did you know those dead birds that keep falling out of the sky was first reported in 2004? Then started happening again in 2009. That's too much of a coincidence. It really started picking up again, including mass marine life in 2011. Around that time, the antennas are up and running. You don't find that strange? Maybe this will help. If you look up the location where these birds fell, those antennas are there. Arkansas, Alabama, New Jersey, Kentucky. I'm not kidding, look it up. They didn't start off just building one. They were building these things in mass. Getting back to converting things to digital, I believe these antennas are affecting the analog signal, which is why we had to be switched to digital. Reports say when they use these antennas, the particles they use from the radiation belt is being replaced with radiation from the sun and the earth. They charge up the particles and make this plasma and use it for whatever. But to get maximum effect, the plasma needs to be dense. One way of doing this is by spraying particles in the air, specifically barium. The other way is to use satellites to drop things like depleted uranium in the belts to create more charged particles. They put a lot of satellites out there recently. A lot of people concerned that it may be punching holes in the ozone layer and causing more radiation exposure, which could possibly be the reason that it's getting hotter. I don't know. But this thing does have the power to disrupt this simulation we're in. I'm just saying. They use HAARP to find mineral-rich locations, like oil. Speaking of oil, have you seen the Amazon fires that the news is not talking about? Coincidentally, the rainforest catches fire right after the natives won a major lawsuit. They're setting those fires.
Olha o que eles fizeram com a nossa reserva. 2 anos que a gente estava lutando para preservar isso aqui. E agora vem os baderneiros e pica fogo na nossa aldeia. Se não bastasse a Vale, matar nosso rio, matar os nossos fontes de vida, agora vieram e puseram fogo na nossa reserva. Nós não vamos nos calar. Amanhã nós vamos fechar a pista e queremos a mídia aqui para nos defender.
These people make me so angry. You have no heart to pull a task like that. I feel so sorry for those people. Their land is being stolen right in front of our eyes. Just thought you should be aware of that. Major moves are happening. Stay alert. Going back to mineral rich, have you ever wondered why that location in Alaska was chosen? And why all HAARP facilities are in mineral rich locations? Let's take Alaska for example. I just found this out myself. The facility is right on top of an oil deposit. To power this device requires lots of power. Instead of having fuel trucked in, they tap the deposit, have an on-site refinery, an on-site generator for constant power. It's always ready. That's genius! I gotta give it to those evil bastards. That's pretty smart. A weapon that's feeding right off the tap. Unlimited energy source. This weapon can make radiation belts and take them away. They can even expand the ionosphere.
I chose what's called a phased array antenna for the patents because it can be aimed. Picture holding your microwave oven in your hands with the door open. Then you can move it around and send those microwaves different directions. And for these applications where I wanted precise control of where the power was, I felt that was the best type of antenna to use. And that is the kind that HAARP has built. There were some other ideas, both to possibly modify weather and finally to lift a portion of the upper atmosphere further out into space. It is possible with a big beam to take a part of that upper atmosphere and push it out further.
What they're not paying any attention to is what's happening to the ionosphere while it's being held 80 miles out into space by this high-energy beam.
In certain applications, the military acknowledges that it can literally lift the ionosphere, and what they say is, it's not a problem, it's a short period of time, yet when you lift the ionosphere up, the lower atmosphere rushes in and fills that void, which changes localized weather patterns.
And you wonder why you hear the moon is in our atmosphere. When they use these antennas, it produces one visual side effect, the aurora lights. A lot of times when you see these lights, it's being produced when the antennas are in use. This is also mentioned in the patent. So the next time you see these lights and they're really bright and vibrant, it's most likely the antennas in action. Isn't that amazing what this thing can do? Getting back to the bots. Are we filled with these bots? It's possible. Rumor has it that it's in the air and in the food. Is it causing Morgellons disease? That's possible too. Can the antennas transmit and receive signals to it? That's also possible. Being controlled by carbon copies? It's going to take a little bit more for me to buy that one. But, and I'm talking unedited right now, these Popeye posts that's been flooding the web, when did this happen? What did I miss? Hey, I thought those pictures was photoshopped, and then I come find out it's real. So, maybe these people were receiving a signal that they was craving this sandwich so much that they would stand in line an hour or more to get this sandwich. I don't get it. It just looks weird. It just don't look right. People standing, I can see if it was a movie, they standing in line for a dry GMO chicken sandwich. Maybe it is possible. Maybe they being controlled. I don't know. That's strange. And none of these restaurants ran out of chicken. It's like they knew. It's like they were prepared. I don't know what to say about that one. But I always say there's 10% truth in every story, and the part that's the truth always fit other stories. Terral mentioned that there are ways of disabling the bots inside your system, which I would provide his link in the description. Between the bots messing with our brains and the antennas, I'm really starting to believe one of them is causing the Mandela effect. Maybe even both of them working together. One thing is for sure, those antennas do some spooky things. Well, I'm at the end. That was some work. Hopefully it doesn't get snatched. We will see. But hey, thank you for watching and thank you for sharing your time with me. Before I go, I'm gonna leave you with this clip from the HAARP Project.
The Montauk Project, which was an experiment carried on at Montauk Point, New York, on the southeastern tip of Long Island, that's off of metropolitan New York, was essentially two projects. It was a mind control project where they did research on how to influence the mind of man using electromagnetics. It also evolved into a time travel project. They found out that they could actually bend time with the same equipment that they used to bend minds. Influence the mind of man using electromagnetics. Influence the mind of man using electromagnetics.